All right, it's Shark Tank Live. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We are going to go over some of the visits that happened. A rare shark dog emoji tweet happened, and we're hopefully going to be joined by Dalen Flowers a little bit later on. But we're just going to have fun in the chat, go back and forth, and just kill about 30 minutes to an hour of time. So if everybody's interested in that, stick around. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
News is flashing around everywhere, and it feels like that Ole Miss is about to go on another run in the transfer portal. I don't think it'll be like the December portal to where they just ran off Walter Nolan and Princely Amonmielen and Tyler Barron and all of those guys. I think it's going to be some G5 type players, some depth pieces, something that makes their team actually a little bit better, but may not have the same name recognition value that you're expecting. You look on 3, just happened earlier today. Brandon Turnage, I think Zach Berry reposted that his visit. He's going to visit Ole Miss, and Kendrick Blackshire from Alabama. These are 2 people with Pete Golding, Alabama connections that are going to visit. Yam Banks is supposed to visit a little bit later on this weekend. And also, I believe Gerald Mincy is supposed to do that as well. So we'll see exactly how that goes as Ole Miss tries to get those players honestly committed. Anyway, remember in the chat when we get started, please put where you're watching the show from and stuff like that in the chat. I'm just curious of where they're coming from. Whenever we're going through that, it'd be like, whatever the Dan Patrick type thing. It was like Stephen Willis, 6'2", 220, ding, that thing. No, it's not quite like that, but it's something like that. I am interested in generally where everybody is watching from. We're waiting to potentially have Dalen Flowers, and we're going to talk and have a good time and all of that stuff. But that's kind of the news. I mean, you do have a situation with the shark dog, and I asked around about it, and the best that I've got is maybe it's a guy whose name gets confused with a sweet potato from time to time. Could be him. I don't know. So we'll see exactly how that goes as well. We'll move over into the chat real quick. Tim Skelton says, Ole Miss. Tampa Zeke, hotty toddy from windy, rainy Tampa. Yeah, it came down about an hour ago here. Tampa Zig. It really came down about an hour ago here. Tim Skelton's in McCarley, Mississippi. William and Mary from New Orleans, Louisiana. Hotty toddy. Thanks for watching. James Mendoza is watching in Tupelo. Does that latest Kiffin tweet mean 2 visits that Zach Berry tweeted? No, I don't know, honestly. And besides, Blackshire and Turnage, they would be visiting during the weekend. Ole Miss is starting their visit weekend on Thursday-ish. So it should be interesting to see how that goes. Like I said, the thing that I am watching right now and the thing that I am paying attention to are running backs that visit. They're going to happen. You got 3 weeks basically to get them in school. Somebody's going to do it. I've heard rumors from different things about Logan Diggs, and obviously Jace McClellan went to the NFL draft today. So that changes that a little bit. Roydale Williams is still out there. He's visited Florida State. Where's he going to go this weekend? So I am going to pay attention to them, and also some small school backs. And when I say small school, I mean not SEC, essentially. An out-of-conference back that maybe we're not thinking of. So I am really interested to see and who actually visits. Bradley Voys is watching from Corinth, Mississippi. Michael Specs is in Raymond. Still, them boys need depth players. We absolutely do. You can use the portal for depth if you know what's going on. especially on O. Tampa Zeke. Ole Miss finished the season number 9 with an ESPN predicting a number 6 start to next season. And that's a good point that I want to talk about. On tomorrow's show that I did, it's almost kind of a celebration. I looked at 9 or 10 way too early top 25s for 2024. The lowest that Ole Miss was ranked was 7th. The highest was 5th. And we just went back and forth and we talked about how next season is here. And like Ole Miss fans that have been saying, wait until next season, their entirety of their life, what next season is here. I talked about how this is going to be the most hyped season that Ole Miss has been through since 1970, when Archie Manning was a third-year starting quarterback and Ole Miss had just beaten 4 top 10 teams the year before. Going into 1970, Ole Miss was the it school. It was that level of hype. I talked about how the Mississippi, if Ole Miss hosts a playoff game in 2024, it's the biggest game in the history of the state. And I talked about what kind of needs to go right. So pay attention to that tomorrow. I actually enjoyed doing that show, and I love kind of getting in the weeds because a strength that I have over other people would be the stuff like knowing off the top of my head that Ole Miss won like 3 or 4 games against top 10 teams in 1969. Number 9 ranking that Ole Miss finished at was the highest they've been since 1969 when Ole Miss beat Arkansas in the Sugar Bowl. Stuff like that, I think that's where I shine a little bit. But yeah, it's pretty big. It's like a 54 year type deal going into next season. Dalton Taylor says, hotty toddy from Crystal Springs, Mississippi. Marty Dixon's in Oxford, Mississippi. And Stilton Boys is still trying to find depth places on the offense, and he wants depth on the offensive line, which they're working on, as Ole Miss just got a commitment from Diego Pounds, an offensive tackle out of North Carolina, that protected Drake May. Big-time pass protector, protecting a big-time quarterback. So, yeah. Matthew Irvin says, hotty toddy from Magnolia, Arkansas. NXWE is from Canton, Mississippi. Still them boys watching in Gulfport. James McDonald is hotty toddy from Alabama. Hello world. Brian Rogers, Buzzard Roast, Mississippi. Now, I do not believe that is a real town, but knowing Mississippi and D-Lo and so and hot coffee and all that, I can't say that's 100% not a real town. Gerald Kushia from Clinton, hotty toddy, Mr. Mincy. Okay. Oh, Gerald from Clinton. Okay. Gerald Mincy. I got you. I think we're going on the same wavelength. James Coleman's in Oxford, Mississippi. I like your helmet and your avatar, by the way. Pat 0311 tuning in from Hattiesburg. Folks down here actually thought they had a shot at Quinshon. I'm telling you, if Quinshon, if Ohio State had not have offered at a point that they were just okay with, that whole situation got weird. It could have gotten really weird. There's a whole overinflated sense of self where they were real close to painting themselves in a corner a little bit. Marlon Fleury is from Bolivar, Tennessee. That's pretty cool. And we got a Thaxton, Mississippi from Quaidman. Oh, here we go. Kirk Wise is chiming in from Molly Bar Road. Any smoke on a running back and linebacker from Bama. McClellan's going to the NFL draft. We have to see if Roydell Williams visits the linebacker that Kendrick Blackshire is going to visit. So we'll see what they're up to. Mike Vandegrift says, late to the party. James York is watching from Vicksburg. It's hard to be more excited about Ole Miss football than I am right now. We have the coaches, the players, and the fan base to take it all the way. It's a sheep and a trophy. My emojis are not up to speed. Michael Specs, I'm not questioning the best coach since Vault, but why do we play so few people on offense? because they go so quickly and they don't want to get into the substitution game. Jay Cannon from Lumberton, Mississippi, Hottie Toddy. Kenneth Ford, HYDR from Germantown, Tennessee. Taking that midnight train to Georgia. Ole Miss player wrote that song. And also, he could be talking about the M-Braves at the moment because they're heading to Columbus. Mike Vandegrift from Blue Mountain, Mississippi. BNG V2. Should we be worried about Barron jumping ship to Louisville? McDonald, according to insiders, was a good friend. Yeah. Since it didn't immediately happen, I'm not as worried about it as some people are. It wasn't a situation where it was just bang, bang, you got them both. And once Ole Miss has a chance to match it and it becomes an NIL game, Ole Miss is going to be able to compete in the NIL market. I think it's a situation. And like I said, I think, let me just put that out there. I think that Wesley Walker and Tamari McDonald probably are pretty good friends. And whenever Tamarian got offered in his deal at Ole Miss, all of a sudden Wesley Walker got into the portal and the offer from Ole Miss never came. And so Louisville went it through Wesley Walker to try and get both of them, and they're going to get Tamari McDonald. He flipped. But I don't know if they're going to be able to get Tyler Barron, if that makes sense. Barron was the more important piece anyway, in my opinion. Wayne Terrell was watching from Clinton. Can Bentley play every game? No, but he doesn't have to. You're not replacing 278 carries. You're going to have a situation like 2020 or 2021 to where there were 3 backs that were basically getting equal reps. You're not going to have a situations like last year. So don't worry about Bentley's durability because he doesn't have to be that much durable. Hunter Prather is listening from Boonville, Mississippi. Would you want Yam over McDonald? I mean, it's 6-1, half a dozen and other, honestly. I like Yam in 2022. The year before, he had 6 interceptions and 11 passes defended. His numbers went down fairly considerably this year. I want to know why that happened. But Yam is a really good football player and a really good defensive back. And he's a guy that can sit back there. I don't know if he's an alley safety. There's still a lot of getting to know Yam Banks that Ole Miss fans probably need to do. But you got to figure out if he's a free safety, if he's a strong safety, if he's one of those alley type players. That is all stuff that Ole Miss fans have to figure out. And they probably should figure out starting right now. Jeffrey Cunningham from Hernando, Mississippi. Do you think we have the best D-line in the country? And who do you think is going to be the surprise player next year? Yes, I do think Ole Miss has the best defensive line in the country. I think in the middle of the field, having J.J. Pegues and Walter Nolan with Princely and Monmielen and Jared Ivey as your starting 4, there's not a lot of teams that can touch that. And Jared Ivey is low-key a fantastic player on this football team, even after these new players are coming in. It's going to be really interesting. Now, surprise player, it's interesting because I go back and forth, right? I go back and forth on this. And who's going to be the Dwan Anthony of this season? And I think Lewis Moore could be that guy. If Ole Miss lands Yam Banks, that could be the player. Obviously, I'm looking at a safety type player coming down. It'll be really interesting to see if Brandon Turnage becomes that dude. Like I said, there's a lot of interesting things to think about. I think a surprise player might be Kedrick Riscano. I really like Kedrick. I like his feet. I like his contact balance. He has everything that you want a running back to have. And that'll probably be a good example of what I'm expecting. Waves on Swim. Ole Miss should be top 5. If not, they be hating. Hottie Toddy, HYDR. You are absolutely correct. So glad that Bentley finally committed. The rumor is they were just waiting to announce that. It's been done for a little bit of time as well. James McDonald, I'm going to start saving up for my very first game for next year. Well, go ahead and make an idea of which games you are going to want to shoot for, because I have a feeling that it's going to sell out really, really quickly. And if you try to pick, all of a sudden you look down and it's like, okay, I'm going to try and pick the Georgia game. All of a sudden you might end up costing yourself the Kentucky game. I think the Kentucky game would actually be a good setup. Mike Vandergriff late to the party, Natty to the sip. Jack Speed HT from the Old Dominion in the middle of the present storm. It just went, it went through in 90 minutes ago. My house. BN Goals B V2. Congrats on 6,000. Thank you very much. We are going to do remote broadcasts now. I had just ordered some equipment and all of this stuff, and we're going to get going. If Ole Miss goes to a home playoff game, I will be at that game, period. Marine Rebel, is Brandon Turnage better than McDonald? He's visiting this weekend, Warner Robins, Georgia. It's a situation. He's not necessarily better. He's not better. But they kind of do similar things. And Turnage obviously went to Lafayette County, so he's a good player as well. Anthony Blissett, hotty toddy from Katy, Texas. Peyton Keller, hotty toddy, I'm going to Ole Miss. Congratulations, Peyton. Do not stop by the credit card booths in front of the student union within the first week. Some free advice. Even if it's a t-shirt or not, you don't need a t-shirt that bad. You don't need to start your college experience in debt over a t-shirt. Waves on Swim. Q is not built for Columbus, Ohio in late October and December. Dalton Taylor, looks like we can have the O-line equivalent to Ower and Tunsil plus depth with all these offensive tackles we're going after. It feels like that. It feels like Ole Miss is in a situation to where they're recruiting tackles and they're just going to move people down as necessary. So that it kind of feels like that. Gil Hanna, hotty toddy from one of your everydayers. Thank you very much. We appreciate it very much. Sue Dye from Corinth. If you know, you know. Mike H, if Harbaugh leaves Michigan, do you think Michigan's preseason ranking falls below Ole Miss? Probably not, just because they're Michigan. It comes down to like Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, those three schools. They're going to be ranked fairly high. I saw some way too early top 25 polls where Notre Dame was like 5th in the country. So when it comes to media and human beings predicting this, I just don't know if I can believe it. Gary Gazzard, who is a real legitimate running back coming to Ole Miss from Boonville, Mississippi. Okay. Had a conversation earlier this week with somebody that would likely know, okay, what's going on. And I'll just leave it at that. And I asked the question outright. This is before we knew about Q, before even Ulysses re-signed officially and all that was known. And I asked the question, what is Ole Miss doing about running back? And that's it. And these are the things that I noticed from that conversation. First of all, the very first thing they was unbelievably excited about Ulysses Bentley. Even before it was announced that he was coming back, they were excited. 2, they didn't mention Q one time. This was during the heart of the rumors when they were trying to start it coming back and all of that. So I knew that ship had sailed. That was over. And 3, he said there was no specifics on running backs, but that we should pay attention to who visits and really keep our ears down, because it feels like Ole Miss might try and keep it secret, keep it on the down low a little bit. But if running backs come on campus, that is going to tell us everything we need to know, in my opinion. And that's what they said. It was pretty cool. Jesse GNP says, enjoying Shark Tank Live from Lower Alabama. Mark Coleman, best Ole Miss show by a mile. Love this show. Almost daily listener. We got to get you daily, Mark. We got to get you daily listening. Michael Speck says, thanks. Nathan Rutherford, if you had to pick between Roydell Williams or Logan Diggs, which one would you take? From Ripley, Mississippi. That's a six of one, half a dozen of the other argument. I would probably take Logan Diggs because of this reason. I look at him as a plus Snoop Connor at running back. The way that Logan Diggs runs, that's the way I look at it. He's a plus Snoop Connor. And that's, if you think about what Ole Miss is putting together in the running back room, I talk about Moneyball all the time. Ole Miss is not trying to replace Quinshon Judkins and 1,200 yards rushing and 15 touchdowns. They're not trying to do that. They're trying to put together a running back room and a quarterback that can, between them, can run for 2,600 yards and 29 touchdowns. That's what they're trying to do. And they have Ulysses Bentley, who is a plus Jerry Neely. I mean, we can all agree with that. And they have Kedrick Criscano, who has a chance to be their Henry Parrish of the room, that just like, hey, nobody's seen this cat, but he is good. And then they need somebody that can be the change of pace, the battering ram at the end of the game to go against tired legs. So that's the reason I said the Snoop Connor, and Logan Diggs or Roydell Williams would be very good at doing that. I like Logan Diggs personally, honestly. Jay Cannon, when is Hurd coming from a visit? Don't know. It hasn't been scheduled. I've heard rumors. But listen, right now in this transfer portal season, it's not anybody's fault for them going through this. But the hit rate on this is less than 50%. I mean, you're almost down to a good Major League Baseball hitter at the hit rate on these transfer portal moves because nobody talks. Whenever there's a visit, they'll let that know that visit is there. So we'll see if Lance Hurd shows up this weekend or during the middle of next week or anything like that. This is the other thing that's starting to come out from all the people that follow recruiting. You know, there's kind of a consensus developing a little bit. Diego Pounds was really highly rated by John Garrison and Lane Kiffin. That changed things a little bit. Percy Lewis was told to look around, and they really like Gerald Mincy, who's supposed to visit on Thursday. Now the question becomes, if Gerald Mincy commits, do you take another tackle, especially someone that likely will not come because he's probably going to some place that he thinks he's going to start? If Gerald Mincy commits to Ole Miss, okay, you have Jaden Williams, you have Diego Pounds, you have Micah Pettis, you have Gerald Mincy, all that play the tackle position. So at that point, if Lance Hurd is not scheduled to visit, you have to look at it as like, man, I could be third on the depth chart. I'm good. I was a 5-star out of high school, but I could be third on the depth chart. So it gets complicated is my point. I think Ole Miss would probably take all three. I don't know if they'll be able to get all three in that situation, if that makes sense at all. DJ says, happy Toddy from Brandon. How many SEC teams will you think will make the playoffs next year? 4. It's going to be a 5 automatic bids and 7 automatic, or 5 automatic qualifiers and 7 at-larges or something like that. And if you look at like either Michigan or Ohio State is going to win the Big Ten. Somebody like that is going to win the SEC. After that, I think it's like 3 and 3, and it might be a situation to where they figure out a way to sneak in a second ACC team or something like the second Big 12 team. Like Arizona, I could see them popping up and kind of being the dude next year. But I'm right now I'm at 4 and 4, and then you've got 3 other auto qualifiers, something like that, and then like another at large or something like, yeah, pretty good. Pat says 0311. Just tell Barrett and he can have an extra playoff ticket for McDonald when Louisville season's over next year. Alabama linebacker is visiting this weekend along with a few others. It's turning into a big weekend. It really is. Everybody kind of needs to pay attention to these weekend. Daniel Fowler, other Ole Miss writers, said that McDonald got a bigger offer from Louisville than Ole Miss was willing to make, and they thought that Ole Miss was going to be much likely to match offers for Barron than McDonald. I heard something kind of similar. Louisville's not joking in their NIL collective either, but I think Wesley Walker helps that a little bit as well. That was another in. KMB says, what about the linebacker taking a visit here? This Kendrick Blackshear. He had 16 tackles last season for the Alabama Crimson Tide. He's kind of spot played over the last 3 years, but if you're at Alabama, you can play a little bit. And if you're coming to Ole Miss to be a depth piece, because let's be honest, that's what it doesn't matter that he has the Alabama fairy dust on him. He's coming here to be a backup. I mean, TJ Dudley and Pooh Paul, those are going to be the dudes. And you have Sunter and Perkins, and you have other players that's going on. It's a chance to come here and compete with what's going on. Killshot Ben says, Tupelo, Mississippi. Blackshear should be a huge get if we can land him. He's stout. Daniel Parker, some still freaking out about Judkins. Other podcasts, we're going to be fine. I commend Lane for cutting off cancers in the room. Yeah, there's a picture that I saw of the celebration, the immediate celebration of Jackson Dart holding the Peach Bowl trophy and Trey Harris sitting there. And everybody in the shot looks really jacked up about winning the Peach Bowl. And then you look over at Quinshon Judkins, and he's got his hands in his shoulder pads, and it looked like he was about to get a runner-up medal. And I think that, looking back on it, that says a lot. Not many people talked about how dominant Ivy was in the Peach Bowl. Well, some people did. Jared Ivey's really good. Jeremy Dillard, any news on John Saunders? I am DMing with somebody fairly close to the situation that says news should be coming fairly quickly. I think Yam Banks is the target in place of McDonald. Yes, but I don't think one affected the other, if that makes sense. I think it just kind of worked out. Brandon Martin from Tupelo, JJ Pegues will have 4 to 5 TD rushes also. Yeah, I believe that 100%. Hadassah, smash the like button, folks. Thank you very much for that. Tim Skelton, haven't heard anything in a while on upgrading the stadium. Does anybody know anything? I'm going to tell you right now, though, upgrading the stadium's not happening for a while. Not until the NIL component gets straightened out. Because NIL money is more important to Lane Kiffin and the program than having amenities in the stadium. I think it would look fantastic if they replaced the stadium. What is that? The West Side, something like that? I think it'd be fantastic. I think they're not going to take $200 million or $100 million or whatever that amount of money is and take it away from NIL. I just don't. DJ Hottie Toddy from Brandon. Is it reasonable to say that 5 to 6 SEC teams get into the playoffs? No. This year would have been the anomaly. And that was with Texas winning the Big 12 and Washington winning the Pac-12. And that was 10 out of 12 teams with either Big 10 or SEC schools. So that would be 5 and 5. And that won't be able to be happening next year. I think with the automatic qualifiers, 3 of the teams will have to be ACC, Big 12, and a G5 team, which means the SEC would have to have 5 and the Big 10 4. And I just don't think it would work out. I think 4 and 4 is more likely, especially early on. Joey Freeman says, I'm really looking forward to OU coming to Oxford. I'm definitely going that game. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be a very Rocky Top type feeling with them playing one song in their band. Oklahoma's band must be the easiest to rehearse for in the history of school. Either that or their song should be the absolute best, and it shouldn't even be close. Zach Tyler, kind of off topic. Do you think Matt Corral not being on an NFL team is a him problem or simply a case of poorly evaluated talent by NFL staffs? I think it was a situation where the Carolina got in the trap of going after first round quarterbacks and chasing all this stuff, and Matt Corral ended up in the wash. I think whenever something bad happened, you have a situation to where especially young people these days can have a problem when adversity really strikes. And this isn't a shot at Matt. It just happens. And how you react to that is such a large portion of what you're going to become. And I think that you're going to see a situation where if Matt Corral goes down to the USFL or the UFL or whatever it's called now, goes and balls out, he'll end up getting a shot on a roster again. He absolutely will. I mean, it's bad luck for him to have his injury when he did, and it's really bad luck that it cost them to have the number one pick to draft Bryce Young. I mean, that's probably the story with why Matt Corral's not playing right now. What happened in New England? New England's a dumpster fire. New England gets too much of the benefit of the doubt for the New England way and all of that. That's a bunch of bunk. It's a dumpster fire right now, and Matt Corral was being kind of tossed in the middle of that, and that was never going to work. Hadassah, I was thinking about Matt Corral the other day. Breaks my heart. Also breaks my heart that Chad Kelly is not in the NFL, but he's doing pretty well balling out in the CFL. Tampa Zeke, as an Oxford native with family still living there, I suggest that anyone that buys tickets to the big games, take a look at room. Everything is already sold out for Georgia and Oklahoma. Absolutely nuts. Michael Speck says, hit the like button. Also on the Locked On Ole Miss Discord channel, I put that link out a couple of times. We have our own Discord. We're doing subs now. It's kind of like a way to tip and you can support the show. And I want to try to get to Oxford and all of that. And we're going to save up and get that done as well. One of the things that I want to do is whenever Ole Miss hosts a playoff game, if they do, I want to go up to Oxford and broadcast. I want to do the show from there for more than one day. And we'll see exactly how that goes. Tampa Zeke, Notre Dame could lose every game and the media would still put them in the preseason top 10 every single time. Yep, you are absolutely right. What's the word on Hurd from LSU, Steve, from Dugout Reb? It's an interesting situation. I explained this earlier, and if I explain myself again and I'm repetitive and you heard this, I apologize. I know that Diego Pounds was unbelievably ranked highly as far as an evaluation by John Garrison and Lane Kiffin. I know that they really like Gerald Mincey. And if you get those two to mix with Jaden Williams and Micah Pettis, you have to tell Lance Hurd, hey, come in and there's a chance you could be the third string left tackle, because left tackle is important for Lance Hurd. So I think it's a situation where Ole Miss would take him. I think if Gerald Mincey decides to come to Ole Miss, it might be a situation that's hard to get him, if that makes sense at all. Leroy Mulligan says, hotty toddy from downtown Black Hawk, Mississippi. Daniel Allison, rumor has it that Q was a problem on the sideline. I don't know if that's even so much of a rumor anymore. Jerry Moyer is coming from hotty toddy from Pascagoula, Mississippi. Tim Skelton, Leroy, I'm in McCarley, Carroll County. Leroy Mulligan says, hey, Tim. Hadassah, hotty toddy from Vancleave, Mississippi. Nathan Rutherford, I love the show. Wake up every morning, and that's one of the first thing I do is stream it to my TV. I don't know much about Blackshear. That's coming for a visit, but if he's at Bama, he has to be good. He had about 16 tackles in 2023. He had 11 in 2022. He had a forced fumble and a fumble recovery in 2023. So I think he's being brought in to be a depth piece. He might be good, but the starters that are going to be on that side of the ball is Poop Hall and TJ Dudley. I don't think that's going to change. James York says, Blue Bloods never try as hard as the teams look down on that work for it. Pettis could move to offensive guard. Pettis is a tackle. In our system, what we do, Pettis is a tackle. With an offensive line that never pass blocks and it's all RPOs and run blocking, he is a road grader. And Diego Pounds is a similar type player to line up on the left side. I think it's more likely that Jerquan Scott is playing on the side at guard. He's the one that we're going to replace Quincy McGee. And Jeremy James, if and when he decides to come back, I think he's going to be the other guard. And it'll be interesting to see what happens at center. Caleb Warren, whenever he plays center, Ole Miss is in a better situation. Or is it going to be Bryson Sanders in year 2? Spring practice is going to be so interesting. Rebel Munchkin says, go Rebs from Terry, Mississippi. Eddie Simmons says, hotty toddy from Byron, Mississippi. I can't wait till football season to start. Yeah, and it just ended one day ago. Ron, people say hotty toddy from Brandon, Mississippi. Lots of Brandon in the chat tonight. Jerry Marshall, hotty toddy. Jeffrey Langley. What about that kicker that committed? He's a dude. Chris Saylor rated him as a 5-star kicker. I forget his name. I think he's from Loyola, Chicago. He has a leg up to about 55, 56 yards. He kicked multiple kickoffs through the uprights, and he even did some punting. So you're talking about 3 different styles of kicking that he could do at one time. And apparently he was a fairly accurate guy. So that was a good pickup. Jeffrey Langley is a relative of Hoppy Langley, who was the kicker for Ole Miss in the 1977 Ole Miss Notre Dame game. KMB hotty toddy from Yazoo City. Tampa Zeke, time to update your crying at the bottom of your video from number 11 to number 9. I'm waiting to see what the playoff ranking is. I know that AP wise, Ole Miss is number 9. That's the best that Ole Miss has been since 1969. I am going to get that updated though. I was waiting to see if it would happen today, but it didn't. Is the North Carolina offensive tackle going to be any count? I don't know. John Baker, with the Rebs as good as we're recruiting, then it'll be a pleasure to watch all the playoff games and watching the Rebs pound state into the dust on the field for a long time to come. Tupelo, Mississippi. Wonder if Judkins is kin to O'Her. Oh, okay, I get it. Matt, Buckeyes fan watching. Great addition to our running back room and Judkins to go along with Trey Henderson. Congrats, Ole Miss, on first 11 win season. Born Texas. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're watching this video, you probably have the most talented running back in college football. I'm also going to tell you now, there's some off the field stuff that is going to have to be dealt with. Now, maybe it being the last year of school, you're not going to have to deal with it so much, but on the field production, he is going to do some stuff that looks like Earl Campbell at times. So be very excited about that and try and coach the good of the situation and avoid the bad as much as possible. Matt, hopefully 4 commits to being less dramatic when things don't go his way during the season. Mark Coleman, we are into name fits, I guess. Pounds is OT, Dart at quarterback, while Classy runs from Bentley. Yeah, Ole Miss is definitely on the all-name team nationally. They've got that national championship wrapped up. Absolutely wrapped up. Let's see. Thor, anything to come from the tight end from the smaller school that visited this past weekend? He didn't actually visit. He ended up committing to Illinois. Ole Miss this weekend is going to get a visit from Daquan Wright from Virginia Tech. He was a player that was supposed to visit this past December. Something happened. He never made it into town. He's going to visit this weekend. This weekend's a pretty good visit. Not that what happened. Would a 2-loss Ole Miss team make the playoff? Yeah. Yeah, I think 2 losses is the cutoff. Golstad Anonymous, Air Force running back. Okay, I have mixed feelings about this. And, well, you can't really see because of there, but people that watch the show know that I'm former Navy. And somebody that goes to the military academy, I count on them to do other stuff. So entering the transfer portal as a grad transfer after going to a military academy, I don't know how I feel about that. But we'll see exactly what happens. I know that he played the fullback position for Air Force. If everybody knows what that is and how that is done, he's about 200 pounds. He's not going to be a burner, but he's going to be pretty good. And there's a game or two where he put up some massive yards from that fullback position. He's a good back. He just really is. I'll be interested to see if he visits this weekend. If he does, pay attention to him. Everybody that visits, pay attention to. Yes, sir. Need thick skin in Columbus. 11-win season in Columbus is a failure. James York, what are you going to do when you hit 10K? Because I can see it coming. Your show is the best. Beats out everybody, especially the big network guys. I don't know. I'm running out of stuff to do. Like once we hit 6,000, that opened up remote broadcast. So I'm planning on going and do a show from Oxford, Mississippi, from outside the stadium for the playoffs and things like that. 7,000, I'm planning on making this. We have the text line. I'm also going to get a phone line and put in, and we're going to make this a call-in show as well. And we're going to mix it up from time to time. Should be interesting. I don't know about 8,000. I know if we hit 8,000 before football season, we're going to hit 10,000 this year. But we need to hit 8,000 before football season for that to happen. And we're already pushing 6,100 at the moment. So we'll see exactly how that goes. If you haven't subscribed, please go down and subscribe. It costs you nothing. Matt, you got a good one. Run the ball right through that big blue. Chad Acton, plenty of young talent already now in their running back room. Transfer portal shouldn't be a deal breaker. Pat 0311, screw room prices. If I make it to the Georgia game, I'll tap into my past deployments and sleep on the ground outside the vault. Helps me blow my life savings at Flunkies after storming the field. I like it. James York says, what are you going to do when you hit 10,000? I can see it happen. Yes. Jeff Long, Hurd is not third string. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, it's going to be hard to get him. What is our center situation? Is Warren staying? It seems like it. I think Bryson Sanders worked at it last year as well, so we'll see exactly how that goes. Hopefully so. Great additions. Will Howard at quarterback, center from Bama. Lots of returning third ranked D. Stacked wide receiver room as usual. Hey, Matt, real quick, why did Ohio State go away from tempo? That was such a differential. Alabama did the same thing. I don't understand. I genuinely don't understand that. 0311, always room for a Marine. Sue, somebody finally picked up on the 0311. How many people on next year's team do you have a chance to go in the first round? I don't know. Walter Nolan for sure. Princely and Mommy Ellen. Yeah, probably. There's a chance one of the corners could blow up because of how good the defensive line and the front seven is going to be. Offensively, Trey Harris is going to be really good. We got a lot of good players. Caden Prescorn is going to be pretty good as well. What do you think of the tight end from Virginia Tech that is coming for a visit? He's a really good athletic player. He's a pass catcher. And Ole Miss running 12 personnel. I like it. Everybody knows how I feel about 12 personnel. Daniel Parker says, if Ole Miss meets Ohio State for a playoff game this year, it would be funny. Just Ohio State, come to Oxford. We'll love to have you. As long as Lane Kiffin is in Oxford, I'm excited about Ole Miss football. Hotty toddy from Daniel Allison. Hadassa, Chad Kelly would look good in black and gold Saints uniform. Good gosh, the Saints just drive me nuts. I knew immediately, just hadn't said anything. When's the spring game? It's going to be sometime in April, probably around April 20th. Depends on a Morgan Wallen concert, which I think they're going to do that again. Mark Covington, hottie toddy from Pontotoc, Mississippi. And we got another hottie toddy from Pontotoc, an everydayer. Welcome, Donna. What's more interesting is that Lane has typically played fewer linemen on higher snap counts. Will be interesting to see what he does with all the depth. Yeah, for real. Matt, one of my best friends is an Ole Miss fan. I'm a diehard Buckeyes fan, so I try to stay current on the happenings. Jerry Moore, if anybody has seen Riscano's film, it's amazing. Just go back to Monday's show. We put it on Monday's show. I don't think people realize how special this team will be this year. If you look at the preseason rankings, lots of people realize how special this team will be this year. Nathan Rutherford, just think we got another Dart and Kiffin coming up. Be at Oxford before you know it. Who's starting at corner next season? Taz Nicholson and DeCameron Richardson are the two leaders, plus whoever gets recruited, because there could be players that are added as well. Let's see. Mark Covington, having enjoyed getting to watch this show grow to what it is now and where it is heading. Hottie toddy from Pontotoc, Mississippi. Thank you, Mark Covington. James York, is there any prospects for the next year high school group that we need to be watching for? Honestly, I'm going to interview Max Torres tomorrow, who is a recruiting guru about the 2025 class. So we're going to find that out together. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of a Kylan Deere and Caleb Cunningham and all those guys, maybe Andrew Maddox as well. Dugout Reb, Steve, what is your thoughts on Ole Miss being in the top 5 next fall? Playoff hoopla galore. Hey, I'm all about it. I love this. I want this all to be fun for everybody following Ole Miss sports, and next season has a chance to be unbelievably fun. It's only going to be stressful if you let it be. Bobby Roberts says Shark Rain defense. Anna Edwards, hottie toddy from Oxford, Massachusetts. No, Oxford, Mississippi. Pat 0311, do you really have a sign behind you that says how to talk to your cat about gun safety? Yes, I do. It is right there. Yes. It's one of my favorite titled books ever, and I thought it would be hilarious on the set. But yes, how to talk to your cat about gun safety. Eddie Hobo Station, in Oxford, Mississippi. James York, have fun and hottie toddy. You know what? Let's wrap it up right there. Tomorrow's show, we are going to talk about Ole Miss being in the top 7 on 9 different way too early top 25s that were released. We talked about that. We interspersed with next year being the year, the biggest game in Mississippi history, and also what Ole Miss needs to do to actually win the national championship. And it's real similar to Ole Miss baseball in Omaha. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Tune in for that tomorrow morning. If you don't mind, go to the Discord and sign up as well. And we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're all going to grow this up. It's going to look a little bit different as all of this growth happens. And I just want to thank everybody for watching the show. We'll see you tomorrow. Hotty toddy.